Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. It's the first touch, strong connection. It lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearold, and welcome to Nancy's Psychic View on the high road to humanity. And all the way from Australia, Charles Attfield's here, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Nancy. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
I'm excited he's here. He's written this cool book, Self-Awareness and Meditation. This is an advanced guide for meditators, you guys. So this is going to be a really interesting show, and you're going to want to share this with your friends, with all your meditative friends. Hopefully everybody's out there connecting right now. But before we get started, and I even read Charles' bio, I just want to send prayers out to the people of Maui and the people who've been affected by the fires. There are still over 1,000 people that are missing, and it's just a really sad situation. And, prayer has a lot of power because of energy. It's the energy of our thoughts and the energy of our words. And so if we take a moment and just send that vibration, that good, positive vibration, just to kind of uplift their spirits, that would be great. I just want to briefly, I won't take a whole lot of time because we want to spend some time here with Charles, but I want to mention that President Biden did go over there yesterday, and it didn't go over really well. The headline reads, Biden jokes about the hot ground while observing Maui fire damage. And President Biden was joking about the hot ground, and he arrived in Hawaii, said that he gave a few remarks and talked about his own experience with a fire and how his Corvette almost got burned, and talked about his cat. But the people of Maui were not very appreciative of his speech and what he had to say. And God bless him, he fell asleep during the presentation. So I just want to say, guys, pay attention, wake up, see what's going on here, because something's not right. And the other thing I want to bring up quickly is that if you pay attention to what's going on here, these fires were not accidental. And I want you to know that any of the houses, and you guys can check this out and Google it and figure it out for yourself, but all the houses who had blue roofs were not affected. All the blue cars were not affected. Anything with the color blue was not affected. So I'll let you guys research that on your own, and that's a whole show in itself. But I want you to know this is not cool. This is not kosher, and these are human beings, and these are people, and we need to stand with our people and stand with the people of Maui. And so, having said that, I'm going to read Charles' bio here. He spent most of his career as a teacher in both the UK, where he was born, and Australia. He initially taught geography and later moved on to teach students with learning disabilities. I think that's great. Charles became interested in mysticism while still in his teens. His interest in meditation and Eastern philosophy grew rapidly after he visited India. So in addition to teaching his teaching qualifications, he has a master's degree in esotericism and a graduate diploma of counseling and diplomas in astrology. I love that. I love astrology and life coaching. So I guess the big question, first of all, do you have anything to say? Have you heard about the fires in Maui? What do you know? What are you getting over there?
Well, they're on the news here, of course. It's such a big thing. We didn't, well, not yet anyway. We haven't heard about Biden's visit there, but yeah, it's a terrible thing. But it seems also to be a worldwide phenomenon now, possibly because of climate change. We're getting all these extremes everywhere. And so rather than just the climate gradually getting warmer, there's all these little hot spots springing up where there's typhoons, or maybe extremely cold or extremely warm. There's all these extremes basically everywhere. We get it in Australia, more and more bushfires, and yeah, it's a problem. What are we going to do about it?
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to disagree with you on the climate change thing. I think this was definitely intentional. And unfortunately, there is a land grab in Maui. And this was an old part of Hawaii where people, the villagers, had lived for many years. And a lot of the elite wanted to purchase the land and they wouldn't sell. And then all of a sudden, they're completely wiped out. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Oh,
I have, you guys can
yeah.
figure this one out for yourself. But
Yes.
you've written a book on meditation, and I'll just say really quickly, and I'll let you speak. I've meditated for quite a few years now. I connect with the divine source. I receive messages, and it has changed my life. I will say that. So tell me your story. How did you get into it?
Well, I'll try and keep it brief. Like you said, I was interested in mysticism from about the age of 19. I actually joined it's an American thing, the Rosicrucian Order, which
Oh,
is based in California.
yeah.
Um, so I did that for many years, just the lessons that they give you and the little meditations that they give you. And then when I moved to Australia, strangely enough, within like couple of months of moving here, I suddenly found out about this guru in India called Sai Baba.
Okay.
And at first I was skeptical, but I went to see him, and that put me on the, let's say, the Eastern path properly. Uh, and so I followed that for a while, did again meditating, but still not seriously meditating, shall we say. You meditate, but not like this an hour a day sort of thing. And then I came across Master Charles, who again is American. So there's a lot of links with America here. He was based in Virginia,
Okay.
his sanctuary there, but he also had one in Australia at the time. And that really put me more deeply into meditation, because they actually try and use technology to help you, soundtracks and so on.
Mm.
And then about 23 years ago, I started what they called facilitated mentoring with him, where I'd send him a report every month on how things are going on all aspects of my life and get feedback from him.
Mm-hmm.
Remembering he's an authentic spiritual master, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 8 years, well, it'd be 12 years ago now, because he passed away 4 years ago, I went into direct mentoring. So I had monthly conversations with him, and I really learned a lot from that. And so that's formed a part of what I put in the book. The
Interesting.
3 chapters in the middle are based on my experiences and his interpretation of those experiences, including the dream section. But in India, I also came across an Indian guy who also became an enlightened person, but not when he'd written the books afterwards. And there was a lot of psychoanalytic meditation. So it combined psychology and meditation to understand what's happening and how meditation works along with that. So that's kind of my path, and it just keeps going.
That's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to rewind a little bit. Did you start to read the Bhagavad Gita at this point, or?
I would have come across it when I went to India.
Okay.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
first read it, but it would have been around that time I came
Yeah.
across it.
Well, because
Yeah.
I just think I've done some research myself, and of course, I grew up as a Christian, but then I have researched other things, and reading that there are so many stories, that have enlightened me, and I just wondered if you had delved into that at all.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I grew up in the church. Perhaps I should have mentioned that I
Yeah,
was
that's
in
okay.
the Church of England, till
Okay.
I was, late teens. So I understand that side of it too.
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita is more like a story, but it's a story almost like a parable, in
Mm-hmm.
that it's a story of your mind and how you have to learn to control your mind and overcome your mind and all the obstacles in your life that come with that. So it's kind of a message into how you can develop yourself and eventually become more of an aware individual, a self-aware individual, and live a more enlightened life.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it's about from what I've worked on myself. I think we all just need to work on ourselves on the inside. You know, we've all been so enamored with the outside, and it's really about the inside. Now, you say, I wrote this down, except where, I love this, except where your feet are, accept that everything is exactly as it is. And don't buy into the illusion that it should be other than it is. Can you expand on that? Because that really was cool.
Yeah, it's based on the underlying philosophy that all is one. All right, we're all part of the universe, we're all one, and therefore everything is appropriate. We may judge it, we may think that it should be other than it is, but it's all part of the ongoing journey of one or your higher self, for example.
Right.
And if we can get past the judgments, um, then we can move on. And the judgments, of course, come under all the psychological stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
agree.
what,
I
yeah,
always say if we could just stop judging each other and judging everything, we'd be
right.
cool.
Yeah.
Because that's a big part of it. Now, you say there are, well, you talk about the search for the self, and you say there are 3 stages for human awareness. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, that's based on Dr. Gold's understanding. He forms a fair bit of my understanding of what I put in the book. And it's kind of similar to psychoanalytical meditation. Sorry, similar to psychoanalysis,
Okay.
which is Freud's psychology, but
Right.
it goes one step further and acknowledges the existence of the self, or you could call it the soul. So the 3 stages, the first stage is more your true self, the self you are when you're born, and then you're taking on a physical body, you take on the instincts, the animal self basically, and you develop an ego, and that ego develops further so that you can be acceptable in the world. So the second stage self is the animal self, so we say, and the third stage self is the you that you've developed unconsciously, of course, so that you're an acceptable person in the world. You know, you get praised for this and told off for this, and
Right.
society tells you to do this, the church tells you to do this, and so on. That's your enculturation, and that develops the third stage self, which hopefully you reach a point where you can now operate in the world and be acceptable in the world. And if that doesn't work very well, then that's when a lot of the psychological issues come into play.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Now, I don't, you also talk about yoga, and I wanted to ask you about this
Mm,
because there are different types of yoga, but you talk about kundalini yoga because
mm,
you say it prepares the mind and body um for the arousal of the kundalini, but it should not be hurried. I wrote that down, but I don't really, of course we all have chakras, and we have these energy fields, but
mm,
I don't think people really understand what this is. Can you talk about a little bit the kundalini yoga and the energy that runs through the
mm.
chakras?
I refer to Kundalini yoga, but I'm not saying people should necessarily practice it. It's
Okay.
just an awareness that it exists. But the
Okay.
Kundalini, well, within ourselves, we have what's known as a life force, sometimes referred to as prana
Right.
energy.
Right.
There's 2 components to that energy. There's the one that keeps you alive, but there's a component that supposedly resides at the base of your spine, at the base chakra or the root chakra.
Mm.
And that really stays dormant until you move on to a spiritual path. Once you become more focused towards where's this all going? Where am I heading? How can I return to being my spiritual self? Then that Kundalini becomes active, and it kind of takes over. You're doing work on yourself all the time to become a better person, or you do your meditation and so on. But the Kundalini is also there, helping to transform you from within. It has an association, shall we say, with the divine feminine energy. All right. It is actually the divine feminine energy within you. So it slowly transforms you from within. It works through the different chakras in your body. It works through the meridians. It's not just a gradual process from base to crown. It can be moving all over the place, but
Right.
it's a transformative energy, and it eventually assuming you reach the point of enlightenment, it's gone right up to the crown chakra, and it's really linked with your source, your higher self, and that's its purpose. And we all have that, even if it's dormant at the base of our spines, and it makes you realize that the human being has a potential that each human eventually must, undertake. And if you believe in reincarnation, it may not necessarily be in this life, but it's there. That potential is there within us.
Mm-hmm. I really, I will be honest, and I want to know your feeling on this. Of course, I did not really get all of this until I really started meditating and bringing in that light through my crown chakra, through my body. I bring it up from the ground and I connected. Once I connected and brought in this light, then it felt like everything balanced out. I was happier. I was, I would receive messages. I became way more psychic than I was, it just was a progression. Did that happen for you too? Or how did it, do you know what I'm talking about?
That didn't happen for me,
No?
not in
Okay.
that way, no.
Okay.
But I would say that as the kundalini is moving up through you, there's a reciprocal energy coming down.
Right.
So you've kind of connected with that energy that's coming down.
Right.
All right. But at the same time, the kundalini goes up, and ultimately they meet fully
Right.
in the crown chakra in
Okay.
kind of divine marriage. So
Okay.
you're working your way up, your soul is also working its way down, if I can say it like that.
Well, okay, so let me understand this. I need to understand. I want the audience to understand this, because I tell everybody, you got to bring in the light every day because it helps.
Yeah.
But I also bring up the light from Mother Earth. You talked about the divine feminine. So it took me a while to figure out that I had to bring it up and bring it down so that they meet. Is that what you're talking about?
I guess so, in a symbolic
Okay.
sort of way. I mean, you're working with that process.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I mean, I don't fully know exactly how that works.
Well, I don't either, but I just thought, I'd
I'm
ask
more
you.
familiar with the kundalini and its process, but I'm aware that, we think we're humans with a soul, but it's really the other way around. We're a soul with a
With the
body.
human body, right?
And every step you take towards the soul, it will take 100 or more steps towards you. It needs your participation in the process, but
Right.
ultimately you will become a soul in human form, if you can imagine that. And that's
Right.
really when you're an enlightened master.
Right.
The
Now,
ego has been kind of tamed and put to one side, and now you're operating as you should really be operating. What the Bhagavad Gita is kind of trying to inform you about.
right.
And
You
remember, Krishna is probably representative of your soul. And
okay.
Arjuna is representative of you, and they're having this conversation.
I don't know if you guys are hearing this, but there's a thunderstorm happening where I'm at. So you hear a
That's the
little
Earth,
thunder.
that's the Earth's Kundalini agreeing with us.
That's what's going on here. Okay. I wanted to, let's rewind a little bit, because I don't know what I want to hear your feelings on reincarnation. I'm a little nervous about this because I know we come in and we work on ourselves, right? And we're trying to elevate our soul, and we do it here on earth. There's lessons to learn, and that's how we do it. But when we go back, I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to come back and, experience this again. But do you feel like, and I do, but I want to know what you think. Do you feel like we get to a point where, okay, we've learned all we can here, and then we move on to maybe another, astral plane, or a different planet, or a different place?
I think so I've heard 50 billion simultaneous universes.
Yes.
And our experience can be anywhere within that. It doesn't necessarily mean if we come back, we're going to come back to being a human form.
Right.
There could be another planet that is more suited. But what it's about is evolution of consciousness. All right, your consciousness within. So whatever's the most appropriate form for your consciousness to evolve more, it will take. It makes me smile when I hear, and even Master Charles referred to it as a challenge. What if we're into all this artificial intelligence and robots and advanced technology. And what if it takes over from the human being? Would it be a more suitable vehicle for the soul? And that really gets you thinking. I don't think it would be, but it's about the evolution, your evolution within, and whatever's the most appropriate way that can happen.
Right. I don't really like the AI. I don't like the artificial intelligence. I feel like you don't either, do you?
I don't know where it's going to go. I've done some research, and I often get some really good answers to my questions on AI. You could ask on one of these, Chat GPT, what is the Indian view of the soul as opposed to the Buddhist view of the soul, and it will write you a descriptive answer. So it's useful in that sense. But yeah, when it starts getting involved in I don't know, avatars or what are they, drones or whatever, and they start having this intelligence, I don't know where that's going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
I think my big thing is, and I'll just be honest with you, we are energetic beings, and we have the ability, like to connect to a higher frequency. And I just think that, I hope I didn't lose him there because I'm having a storm here, you guys. But I'm just hoping that people will learn to connect instead of using artificial intelligence. Hi, this is Nancy Earl, and I'm back here with Charles Attfield. We took a little break there because the thunderstorm was bringing us a little hail and cut off our internet. But his book is called Self-Awareness and Meditation, you guys, and this is what it looks like. Charles, when did the book come out?
When did it come out?
Yes.
Officially, it was the 28th of July, and I think in America it was the 1st of August.
And I'll tell you what, it's a good one. It's really interesting. You cover a lot in this book. I mean, you talk about dreams. I mean, there's so much that you cover. And we were just talking about, I was asking you what you felt about reincarnation.
Yes.
And, the souls, and I love your answer because, I get a little nervous because I don't want to have to come back and do this again.
Well, you could say, who is it that doesn't want to come back?
So I don't know where we go from here, you guys. Do you want to talk a little?
Yeah, you were saying you don't really want to come back again, but you could have said that in your last life and the life before, but you're not aware of it.
Right.
And then I'm saying, who is it that doesn't want to come back? And it's the ego. And it's the ego that, when you think about it. But really, the only life we remember usually is this one. So now, and in your next life, you probably won't remember this one. So in that
wait a
sense,
minute, wait a minute.
It doesn't matter.
I don't think I don't think it's the ego. I just don't, this planet, I'll tell you what I feel. You're probably going to go, what? This planet is so harsh. I'm an empath, and I don't know about you, but I pick up the energy of other people, and it's just so harsh and so difficult. I've had Raymond Keller on, and he talks about Venus and the Venetians, and I kind of want to go hang out with them on the planet of love, to be straight with you. So it's, I just, the harshness, it's so, I know we're here to learn, and I'll let you say what you want to say about it, but I know we're here to learn. And I love that you're teaching people about self-awareness and meditation, because really that's what we need to learn. We need to learn about the inside of us, but it is difficult down here.
You say we're here to learn. And yes, that's true. What is it we're here to learn? I guess we're here to learn how to love.
Yes.
But like we had a quick discussion beforehand on evolution.
Yes.
And, I do refer to that in the book, but I'm really referring to a different sort of evolution. And the way it works, as far as I can see, is that we've come into this human form, and let's say that's many lives ago, all right? But we've descended into that form. We didn't just suddenly have a human form. There was a descent from our original state down into being human forms in a material world full of diversity, a duality, and certainly not the oneness that we experienced before we came down here. Now, it's not to say there's not a part of us that's been up there all the time. It's just
Right.
this little part of us that is having this experience. So as you become more and more engrossed into matter or into the human form, that's the involutionary cycle, it's called. And you're trying to experience living in this material world. And you want this possession, you want that possession, you want power, you get into arguments. You're really getting more and more engrossed in really what you are not, if you take it from the perspective that you're really more your soul. Okay. And once you get to a point when you can't really you don't want that anymore. It's not a
Right.
sudden change. You think there's got to be more than this.
Right.
So you start the journey backwards. You start the journey back towards your soul. And that is the evolutionary cycle. All
Okay.
right. And we're talking about evolution as in Charles Darwin. So involution into matter and evolution back out of it. And that's the spiritual path until we return to being in our soul. So then the question could be, again.
Yeah, we're pausing here because the internet's shaky because of the storm that's going on.
Yeah. So I say, so you could ask, why did I have this experience, or why am I having this experience? And I think the best way I can put it is somehow you're experiencing what you are not, all right, from a soul perspective, so that you can more fully be what you are.
I like that.
All right.
Yeah.
That takes a bit of thinking,
Yeah.
but that
No, it's true. It's
kind
true.
of makes some sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you said. I like how you put it. Well, I believe, and you talk about this a little bit in the book, you have to almost have something happen to what catapults you to go within. A lot of times it's a tragedy or something that really sparks you to say, wait a minute, this enough is enough. Like you even talk about hitting rock bottom before you can go back up. And to me personally, I mean, I had to do that. And then you start to search, and you start to work on your inside and forget about the outside. I like what you talk about with the material stuff too, because I used to be a material girl and I like nice stuff, but I like the divine and I like being connected more than I care about the stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
So
takes
yeah, I
time
mean,
though.
and then it brings on the question: who's actually creating this experience for us? All right, you could say it's the soul or the spirit or universal consciousness is actually orchestrating the show. So you think that you're making all these decisions, but somehow you're being prompted because it's all part of the plan to
Right.
experience what you really are not. And I'm not saying it's not real in some sense. You're experiencing what you're not compared with that aspect of yourself so that you can more fully be that self. And it's all being orchestrated from your higher self. And that's why I kind of said, don't be judgmental, be more accepting of what is. It is as it is, and it's all appropriate, because that's looking at it from a perspective of the higher self. All right.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
meant.
do you think, and I don't want to interrupt your train of thought there, but do you feel like our plan was written and is still written? And is that why you say, because I feel that way. I know we have free will, but again, like you mentioned, we are prompted by the universe. So our plan is written before we get here. And if we veer off the path, it feels like we're put back on our path. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I use the word prompted you could go a little bit more philosophical than that and say that you are not actually doing anything. You're not creating the show. You know, the universal consciousness or soul is creating the show, and it's a trick of the ego to think you're doing it. Can you get what I'm
No, and
saying?
I agree with that, except that, and I want to interject here because I do affirmations every day. And the reason I do affirmation is because I'm big into energy. And so I believe that the spoken word and your thoughts go out into the universe and the universe responds accordingly. And I believe that's part of it because as you evolve, I believe the universe recognizes that evolvement, that energy shift per se. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you could still say you're prompted to perform those affirmations.
Yes.
Because you need the result that comes as a result of it.
So it's kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about the divine source? Do you believe that there is a divine source? Because I do, but I mean, I'm just asking. A lot of people say source, a lot of people say God, a lot of people say, you know, universal energy, or I've had people say, you know, the radiant one, the light. What do you feel about that?
It's all terminology, and the problem with some terminology is that it triggers what your enculturation or beliefs. It brings that all up. So your perception of God may not be the same as my perception of God. All right. It reminds me of a little story. There's this student with his master, and he says to the master, "I don't believe in God." And the master turns around and said, "I don't believe in God either." And the student says, "But you're the master. You're supposed to believe in God." And he says, "I don't believe in the God you don't believe in." All right. So I don't know. The terminology kind of gets in the way.
Well,
So
okay,
really,
let's change it up. Let's just say energy.
I'd say universal consciousness,
Ah.
because consciousness is all there is ultimately. Even in what you see around you, it's all consciousness, and you're not separate from it. You just believe you're separate from it at the moment, but it's all part of that oneness that is source or universal consciousness. It just appears differently from our perspective, but that's how it's meant to be for our learning experience.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I really like talking to you. I like getting your perspective. It's a little bit different than what I've gotten from other people. So it's really cool. Now, talk about the book. What prompted you to put this together?
I'd say that started about 25 years ago.
Okay.
It wasn't just an overnight thing. And it probably started when I was doing that master's degree in esotericism, which focused on the, let's say, spiritual or transpersonal psychology. Okay. I had to write a thesis, as you usually do for a master's degree. And so I thought, well, I want to do something because I was really already fascinated in the kundalini at that point from books I'd read in India. I want to do something related to that. So I did a thesis, which was done in the form of a book, which was done as a kind of manual for counselors who may have clients who are having experiences as a result of the kundalini. And often a kundalini experience, particularly in the initial stages, if you've never thought about spirituality, could be quite dramatic and appear to be like a psychosis. All right. So, in fact, Carl Jung termed the phrase transitory psychosis as opposed to let's say, medical psychosis. So that sometimes the symptoms can be very similar. And so I wrote the book was kind of written for counselors. How can you, what is the kundalini? What does it does, and how does it appear similar in some ways to mental illness? So that's how it started.
Yeah.
And then from then on, I started adding things. I came across those material on the psychoanalytical perspective and meditation. And Dr. Gall, who formulated this theory, he was undergoing psychoanalysis because he had a really traumatic breakdown because he found his friend had hung himself in his apartment. And that was what triggered his kind of journey.
Right.
So he underwent psychoanalysis to try and, cure himself, shall we say.
Like a PTSD, like a PTSD.
Sort of, yeah.
Trauma. Yeah.
But then at the same time, he got introduced to meditation. So he became a meditator. And then he could compare the two paths as to which was the best, which was doing what, and the best path to resolving those internal issues. And he ultimately came to the conclusion that it was meditation was the best path, but meditation that incorporated some understanding of how the mind worked. All right. So I incorporated a lot of his stuff in the book. I don't know if you saw the chapter. It comes towards the end called The Way Forward.
Yes.
And it summarizes his experiences. All right. So it is and Muktananda's experience, if you've heard of him too, but mainly Dr. Gall's experience. So that was that. And then, of course, what I learned through personal mentoring with Master Charles, and he would be giving a lot of what I've explained to you was the philosophy that he taught me, which he got basically was an Indian philosophy, which has been around for thousands of years.
Right.
And if you know which one it was closest to, it'd be Kashmir Shivism. But anyway, it's sort of, so that got incorporated too, and the book just evolved and got written over a period of about a year.
Yeah,
with all the information and material. Yeah,
it's in depth. It's in depth. Well, I want to just hit on a couple more points before I let you go today. One thing you talk about is seeing lights in meditation, and this had happened to me when probably 6 years ago. I mean, I was meditating, and then everything became purple. And now when I meditate, I close my eyes and I see purple. You talk about the color and the vibrations and the frequencies. Can you expand upon that a little bit?
These colors that I'm referring to there are the colors that may just flash into your mind, or it may form an image, but in my case, it's more just the color flashes into your mind just for a fraction of a second. It might be one color, might be two colors. And it was explained to me that what causes that is that your kundalini energy is just activating a particular chakra, and you see a flash of color. So the colors we usually associate with the different chakras, going from red at the base up to green at the heart and violet at the crown, are the sort of colors you tend to see. If there's two happening at once, you might get, the base, which is red, and the crown, which is violet, and it might appear more like a reddy violet, or maybe more of a purple, shall we say.
Yeah, mine's a purple. Mine's a purple.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you this. I don't know if you can analyze it. Mine's purple and it expands.
Yeah. So is it pure purple, or would it be more towards the violet?
Pure purple. And it's
I would just guess that that's a connection between the base chakra and the crown chakra.
Yeah. And see, I think, I'll just tell you what I think. I think, like, when I see the purple, then I think that's my third eye and my crown chakra really connecting is what I feel. That's what I think.
It could be, because there's all types of blue, might be different things happening, but the brow chakra or Ajna center or whatever is more of an indigo blue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So usually you might see blues, and you just say, well, it's within the head.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't necessarily delineate, because it happens so quickly, and it can be combinations and so on.
It's interesting. I've not ever said anything to anybody about the color that I see when I meditate, but I just thought it was fascinating that you talk about, because I know color does have vibration, and it does carry energy. And you talk about the rainbow bridge. I'll bring that up. The rainbow bridge is the connection, you say, or the bridge that we build between the personality and the soul.
Well, a human being has a personality, right? So that's a combination of the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body. So the physical body, the emotions, and the mind. That's your personality.
Right.
All right. And sometimes it's referred, I think Carl Jung just referred to it as the psyche. So he's including the soul in there as well. So that's you as you are now. But as you're on the spiritual path or evolutionary path, if I can call it that, your the practices that you perform and the meditation that you do is slowly bringing you more towards a realization of your true self. And so you're kind of building a bridge between your personality and your higher self. And that's referred to as the rainbow bridge. In Hindu philosophy, it's called the Antakarana. So, I mean, it's not something we made up the name Rainbow Bridge, but in Indian philosophy, they've known about it for thousands of years. So that's called a bridge between you and your soul, and you're building it.
Yeah, it's interesting, how the people in India are so far advanced, and us over here are just kind of starting to get it together, where they've known this stuff for a long time, like you said, thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You do talk about, I want to ask you one more thing before we get out of here today. You do a whole section on dreams.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you elaborate on why you did it, and maybe you can share with the audience, a little bit.
Well, it's based on, first of all, there's a normal understanding of dreams, which is just your mind going over stuff that's happened during the day. So I call that the context. All right, because what you dream about is usually associated with something that's been happening in your life. But there's another aspect of the dreams, which, I mean, I'd never heard of before going through mentoring. And that's what's called it's the mechanics of consciousness. And what it's saying is that your dreams are actually giving you an indication of where you are at that moment. All right. I'm not saying on your whole life path, but just at that moment. You might have been having a difficult day, and your dreams will show that you're negatively balanced. If you take negative as being more the material world and positive more the wholesome, unified aspect of who you are, then your dreams show you whether you're more towards the negative or more towards the positive or balanced in between. All right, so it kind of says that there'll be symbolism in the dream that says that you're negatively balanced. You're probably clearing, you're probably processing stuff. And that's another aspect of meditation. It brings stuff up to be cleared. It's not always bliss.
True.
The symbolism for the negative tends to be the female. All right, now I don't want you to think that it's saying females are negative. It's just a symbolism.
Right.
If there's a lot of women in your dream, you're probably negatively balanced and you're clearing and processing. All right. If there's a lot of men in your dream, then it tends to be that you're more positive. You've basically reached a peak in meditation maybe the night before. You've been brought to a more unified perspective, shall we say. I mean, constantly evolving. If there's a mixture of the two, you're balanced. But it's not as simple as that, because you can have the divine feminine appear in your dream with various symbols and archetypes and so on. You can have the divine masculine appear, but so that it's all kind of explained in the book. So really, it's just showing your consciousness, just telling you where you're at that moment in time. All right, and so you can sometimes say, "Yeah, I was feeling like that." You had a great dream, and in the dream, suddenly you've got all these male figures, and you might have an authority male figure actually giving you a message, which is for you. That's how that works. And then suddenly it goes all wrong. It suddenly, next thing you know, everything's going wrong. And what's happened in the dream, you've been shown that you've been taken to a peak experience. And with the fivefold cycle, which is also kind of explained in the book, when you meditate, you're taken to a peak. all right, the most you've ever been, shall we say. And after that peak, suddenly you've evolved a little bit more on that path. You might have illumination, more awareness, and then it goes down into processing, because to be taken to peak energetically, you're more than you've ever been. Something's got to give.
Okay.
Something's got to clear, and that you might feel discomfort in the meditation. You might, thoughts might start to arise. What it is, it's a clearing process. And with all this stuff, like the Bhagavad Gita is talking about all these problems that we have and all that, they have to be cleared. And that's what meditation does. It slowly makes you more and more pure, so that you can be more aware of yourself. And the dream kind of reflects where you are at the moment. And even though it uses the context, it's important to know that everybody you see in the dream is you. All right. If your best friend comes and says to you, says something to you about something, it's not them talking to you. It's an aspect of yourself reflecting back to you. So
you're mirroring.
Yeah, some really handsome guy says, "Hey, we should go out on a date." It's not him appearing in your dream telling you should go out on a date. It's probably your data that's saying this is what you would kind of like, but here's a reflection back to you of yourself.
That's funny. Yeah, I had a good dream about one of those guys recently. That's really funny. I love it. Hey, I want to ask you something. It may seem like a weird question, but I don't meditate a long time. I have a lot going on, but I do meditate every day. I get up, I have my little ritual, light my candle and do my thing. What do you feel about time? I mean, I probably meditate 10, 15 minutes in the morning. How do you feel about the length of time for people to meditate?
It's not uncommon. I mean, with the lifestyle that you've got, obviously it's hard to meditate a lot. I mean, like I retired a few years ago. I've got plenty of time to meditate.
Oh, okay.
But it's the time, it's the experience whose time has come, But I think to some extent how you go about your day and your perception of things is also important. You have a degree of self-awareness, even though you may not be aware of it as such, but that's just as important as sitting down and meditating. It's like saying church is not just going to the service for an hour on a Sunday, so your whole lifestyle can be a bit of a meditation in progress too. And I think ultimately we'll be meditating 24 hours a day, regardless of what we're doing.
I like that.
But it is nice to sit down and recharge your batteries and have a meditation, and in whatever way that you feel, and that will help.
So you're saying it's a frame of mind. I agree with that. But what I feel is, I'll just tell you what I think. When I sit down, I have to do it. I have to sit down and say my prayers and connect and bring in my light and do all that and ground, because if I don't ground, I'm like way out there. But I just feel like that is what starts my day. And then the whole day is good because I'm flowing. Do you know what I mean? And I think everybody should I believe everybody should take a few minutes in the morning and do that, because it changes everything,
Yeah. But it's good to get into a practice of a set time for meditation. If you have a set time and you go through the same procedure, whatever it is, whether you have a little statue or a candle or whatever, do that regularly, it's creating a structure that your unconscious mind can understand. So when you sit down, it says, time to meditate.
Right.
And you'll get helped in the process because you've created that structure. And it's an interesting quote I saw, which almost kind of contradicts what we've been saying, but I'll say it anyway.
Okay.
It says, if you can't find 20 minutes a day to meditate, then meditate for an hour.
Yeah, I've seen that. Well, and I do feel like it's really important that we do.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
you know, I can speak for myself, and I'm sure you can say as well, meditation has changed my life.
Yeah.
For you as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm
And the
so
thing, the
thrilled.
important
Yeah.
thing is the more you do meditate, the more you evolve spiritually, the more inner power you build as a result. And then the more easy it is to meditate during the day, be more wakeful. It's how wakeful are you to what's happening. If something happens, are you able to observe it and think, okay, well, I'm not going to react that way. I'm going to do this. That's kind of a result of meditation, building that inner power so that you can be more of a witness to what's happening to yourself
Right.
during the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of reactive to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I can say, you know, I can speak for myself that I've noticed a difference over the years. I used to be very reactive because I'm type A, but now I'm a little calmer, or actually I'm a lot calmer than I used to be. And I'm exactly what you said. I think a minute and things maybe don't bother me as much because of it. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I do. It doesn't mean I never get bothered by things, but
Right.
it's a gradual thing. But do you find sometimes that people come into your presence and they say, "God, you're giving off this calm energy," you know? Well, that's the power. And Eckhart Tolle, he summed it up very well with the title of his book, "The Power of Now."
Right.
Because obviously you become more present to what's going on when, you know, and that's the power of now. You know, it's the mechanics of consciousness is what you can call it. And of course, I got a chapter on that in the book.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you, what do you want to leave us with today? Self-awareness and meditation. Do you have a website that people can visit?
I have. It's still a website in progress, but yeah, it's charlesattfield.com.
Okay. And that's
One word.
Attfield, you guys.
That's right. Yeah.
Attfield, yes. And do you give classes, or what are you doing? What are you doing these days now that the book is out? Are you just doing lots of interviews, or what's going on?
I kind of give classes. I'm in what's called a lifestyle village. I don't know what
Okay.
you call them over there. So it's meant to be for the over 45s, you know, and you've all got a little place, and you've got a clubhouse, a swimming pool, and a
Oh,
sauna,
cool.
and you know, I love all that sort of stuff. Um, so I have a group that meets once a week.
Okay.
And really what we do is I might give a few instructions or ideas or a quote at the start, and we sit down. We've got a special control center in, and everybody's got puts a headset on. So we're sitting down, we're just meditating for 45 minutes, listening to meditation music. That's
Nice.
how I with them, and they're happy with that. If I start trying to get too deep into like
Yeah.
what we've been talking about now, it's going to go
Yeah.
over there.
That's okay. But that's cool that you do that. I think that's wonderful. So, and I bet it's really helped them.
Oh, you know, they say they sleep better at night, or particularly on that night, and their blood pressure's good. I mean, I went to the doctor, you know, a few years ago, and he said that's the best blood pressure I've seen for 3 months. You know, so it's got its health benefits, and it helps to make you calm, and it's just generally healthy. But that's not why I do it. That to me is a side benefit.
Why
Why I
do you
do it
do
is
it? Why do you do
because
it?
I want to connect more with who I really am,
There
my
you go.
inner self.
Yeah.
And that's the whole title of the book, self-awareness and meditation. I might just add, because I'm likely to, we'll run out of time, but at the back of the book is a supplementary course. All right, it's a little course, and it's really it summarizes in a way what's in the book.
Right.
So somebody might get the book and just do the course to start with and say, okay, this is what the fivefold cycle is, or this is what the Antakarana is, or whatever, and then use the book as a reference material to
Right.
what's done in. And that's based on a course I kind of gave a group many years ago, but it's been greatly added to, you know. So that, and again, that was based on the philosophy of Muktananda, he had an ashram in India, but he used to keep his library locked. And he said, look, you've got to go and experience it first before you go in the library and start reading books on it.
I read that. I thought that was phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah.
So the people, he wouldn't let them into the library until they meditated and started to understand, and then he let them read about it.
So in a sense, the book is really for people that have, made some effort, at looking at what meditation is. Otherwise, it's a bit deep, But if you haven't had much experience in meditation, you can still pick the book up as a beginner and maybe do the course bit first, or do a bit at a time. You can't read the book and know it all. It doesn't work like that. It's a non-fiction book. It's got factual material in it. So you might need to go back again and again, to get a better understanding of what the chakras are, for example. And you don't need to know that detail on the chakras. It's there because I put it there, but it doesn't mean you have to know. It helps to know that they exist and they've got a purpose. You don't really need to know the details of the kundalini, but there's a chapter there, because it's a kind of reference book in a way. And when you do want to know it, you go and read the chapter,
No, I'm with you. No, I think it's great. Well, you have to understand the chakras because there are energy centers. And like you say, we are energetic beings, souls in these bodies. And I like that you put in there about the kundalini, because I didn't know, you always hear about it, and I've heard bits and pieces, and I've read bits and pieces, but I like that you put, some references in there about it. So it was helpful, as well as the dreams, I thought that was helpful too.
Well, it has different names, the kundalini, in different societies. I think the Chinese will refer to it as the chi energy. Maybe that's the prana, but the chi energy, and it's got these two aspects. So kundalini is just the Indian term for it. And I like my Indian terms, my Sanskrit terms, and that's why there's a glossary at the back of the book, so that you can look it up. And even the index, I put a lot of effort getting an index in there, because I think, well, that helps as well. So I had to push for that, because it's all more printing for the publishers. If you know what I mean.
You got it.
I got it there. The only thing I didn't get was color diagrams of the chakras inside.
Oh, right.
I wouldn't go to color printing, which kind of partly defeats the purpose. So you do have that on the website. There's a page with those chakra diagrams in color, because the book says it's got this color there, and all that. Well, you can't really see it. And I also insisted that the front of the book has that, what I call the self-awareness diagram.
Is that what this is? Okay.
I designed that myself, the self-awareness diagram, and it's highly symbolic. But it's got the colors of the chakras that are in the book, so you can have a quick glance and see from there.
You did a wonderful job, Charles. Thank you. Thanks for writing it. Thanks for caring about humanity. We appreciate it. We need this right now,
Yeah, we do. Yes.
Well, anything you want to leave us with today?
I think we've pretty much covered it. I would say, like I've mentioned, there's those 3 chapters: the mechanics of consciousness, dreams, and meditation pointers, are based on my experience, all right, and interpretation from someone who, a spiritual master. So the dreams, every dream in there has been interpreted by a spiritual master, or I've interpreted it and he's agreed with my interpretation. I wasn't going to just do any guesswork on the meaning of the dreams. They've all been vetted, shall we say.
Okay.
And the meditation pointers, it's understanding that everybody's experience is different. So what I experience may not be the same as what you experience. So that's why I've called it pointers. It's giving some examples, giving some ideas, and maybe a bit of further explanation as given to me. All right. And I'm not claiming to be enlightened, because I'm not. And therefore, well, actually, I don't know.
I think you are. I think I am.
Yeah. Well, why not?
Why not? I think we are.
And that's why the chapter on Dr. Gold's experiences through to enlightenment and Ruxananda's experiences through to enlightenment are called the way forward. It's kind of saying this is how it could proceed for you. You know, it's not saying it will, but it's also saying it's how it could proceed for me. You know, I'm not, you know, I can't talk about those experiences because I haven't had those experiences towards the end, you know, not as it's put there. So it's just giving you an idea, and let me calm people by saying they were extreme experiences. I mean, everyone's going to have experiences like that, but they were extreme, and they just give you an idea. When the ego is being, I hesitate to say destroyed, it can be traumatic because you feel like you're dying, and really the ego is kind of dying, but the ego never fully dies. I point that out. It gets re-scripted. All right, the data changes.
I like that. Yeah.
You need some, or you couldn't survive in the
Well,
world.
yeah, I think that too. I always think that you need a little bit of ego or you wouldn't be able to function.
That's right. You just need to reprogram it.
I agree. There you go. Reprogram it. Well, we're going to get out of here for today. I'm so glad you came on, and I'm so glad you wrote this book to share with us. You guys, it's Self-Awareness and Meditation, an Advanced Guide for Meditators by Charles Attfield. And he's joining us from Australia today. And thanks for bearing with me on our storm here in Arizona. Yes. I want everybody. Go ahead.
My positive thoughts and energies to the people in Hawaii at the moment.
Prayers to the people of Hawaii. God bless. We'll send out some good energy to the people of Hawaii. And anybody need a psychic reading, an angel reading, you can go to my website, nancyyearout.com. You can also read some new messages that I've put up there from Archangel Gabriel. And I've got a new blog that you guys can check out. Just go to nancyyearout.com. We're going to get out of here for today. I hope everybody has a fabulous week, and God bless.